So I think the discovery burden will increase that. Plus, we have the possibility of additional pretrial motions that can't be stopped. And one of those is called a severance motion. That's when one defendant says, I can't get a fair trial if I'm sitting next to that guy. That's a hard argument for someone like Nauta to make, particularly given that he remains employed as Trump's body guy. But we don't know what the status of Carlos de Oliveira is right now. He's not as implicated in the criminal charges here as Nauta and Trump are. He could say that the pretrial publicity surrounding the former president is so massive that he and Nauta can't possibly get a fair trial as ordinary people who work in service of the president.
Well, that seems like a reasonable case to be made, given who we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I think their lawyers probably will make it.
When you talk about the evidence and discovery, there seems to be a lot of electronic records that are mentioned in this. I know this is something that you have flagged. What stood out to you in this superseding indictment?
I think one of the things that stood out to me is really that there are more phones than we knew that were in Jack Smith's possession, right? So one of the things we know is that they have Nauta's phones. How do we know that? Because his text messages are not only cited throughout the indictment, and the original indictment too, but because his lawyer said so in open court last week, that at least two of his phones were seized through a search warrant. What we now know is that they must have either de Oliveira or Trump employee 4, believed to be Yuscil Taveras. They must have their phones as well. How do we know that? Because they have electronic communications that are solely between the two of them.